Hi, this is Eva with Nourish Yoga and Wellness. Today's video is about a pose that I really like for strengthening hips and low back area. It's called bridge pose. It's used in a few different modalities. I've run across it in Pilates, I've run across it in fitness training, and even physical therapists use it. So let's go ahead and get started. You do need to be on the ground, or if you're not really able to get down to the ground, you could even do this in on the sofa or in bed. It just will feel a little bit different. So with bridge, we're on the back and the knees are bent. I have a block and I have a blanket, so it's something you might want to have just for one of the variations today. And then just kind of give yourself a moment to feel the back and notice how it feels to have your shoulders down, the back of the body. We'll take a few rounds of breath just to notice the diaphragm expanding. Rib cage presses up, presses down, out to the side as the diaphragm expands, and then let the diaphragm relax as you exhale. Take two more. Good. One thing to be aware of is that if you have neck injury, you may want to avoid the very deep versions of this, and just make sure that you're looking in one direction up and not turn your head side to side. I may turn mine occasionally just to address you, but generally want to keep your neck still. So to warm up, we'll draw the knees into the chest, rock side to side, and then take and make some circles like you're stirring a pot, and then reverse. And then we'll hug right knee, stretch out the left. Good. And then hug left knee, stretch out the right. So you can go through that a couple times if you want to. Just wanted to give you some movement through the hips before we get started. Start to line up the heels with your hip bones, and the knees will stay above the ankles. So some people like to keep the feet further away. Some people like to walk them way in close to the glutes. I find somewhere in between is just about right, but you can play with this. All right. So notice that there's a little space that arches away from the ground. That's just our natural spine, the way that it's shaped. And yours may be different, slightly different. And then notice that you can flatten that by pushing down through your low back. And then your core will engage, maybe even your glutes, right? So play with the pelvic tilt first. So we're going to tilt the pelvis, good, and then let it tilt opposite direction. So we're going to do a little roll back and forth. And this is the gentlest version or preparation for this pose. So this is a good place to start if you haven't done this in a long time or have never done it. All right, and then to actually begin to move into more of that bridge pose, we'll start to press into the feet, lift the hips up maybe an inch or two off the ground, and then slowly lower back down. If you can find a little rolling motion, the tailbone, then each vertebrae starts to lift up till you're rolling towards your shoulders, and then you roll it back down. So we can add the breath here, inhaling while we're down. Exhale, let the core become more engaged, and then lift the hips up, maybe even using the glutes here. And then inhale as you lower back down. Good. So those are just a couple of notes about that pose. So different variations, block or pillow between the thighs, and letting the knees be above the ankles. Squeezing that block will activate the insides of your thighs, and notice that if it changes the next time you come up into that pose. Good. And then roll back down. And observe that when we lift, we are starting to come in up onto the shoulder blades and maybe feel the back of the neck a little bit. So it's important that you try not to bring the chin to the chest, but keep a little bit of space from your chin so that you're keeping your neck neutral here. And then bring it back down. Good. A couple of other variations, feet together, knees together. and then lifting up and seeing how that feels as the thighs squeeze together. Good. And back down. Back to the regular hip width. And then with the option to lift the heels and the option to keep the heels down and lift the toes, and just notice the difference. Good. All right, and another version of this is to be able to tap the right hip or right glute down and then lift back up, and then tap the left. So you're doing a little twisting motion. And then another thing to play with is taking hips right and left as if you were one of those old-fashioned typewriters that are trying to go side to side. Just kind of different parts of the body activated when you do that. And then bring it back down. Legs wide, feet wide, and toes turned out in diagonal, and then your thighs are at a diagonal angle too. Slightly different sensation as you lift up into this. You might feel it a little more in the outer hips, the outer glutes, and then you could press into the heels and lift the toes. Notice the difference between pulling the heels in without moving, but the idea of pulling in towards your glutes or pushing out and away. Good. And then back down. Good. All right, shake things out a little bit, stretch things out. And then my final version I like is to take a block or a pillow, place it underneath your low back, just above your glutes. It's about the place where you get a little back massage, and you can kind of just settle in here, wiggle it in. And options are to extend the leg. I like to do one at a time. You could do both. And notice how the front of the thighs, the flexors can really lengthen through here. And then option to take one leg up and the other one. And maybe both. Coming into a supported shoulder stand here. And just playing here. You can move the ankles around. You can take the legs wide. You can do a lot of different things here. All right. And then bring the feet to the ground. And when you're ready to come out of that, just go ahead and lift and move the block out of the way. So that's bridge pose and a lot of different variations. Play with little pieces of it. Try whatever you'd like to. And just to release, or stretch out the right leg. Bring in the right knee and stretch out the left leg. Good. And then switch directions. Switch legs. All right, and both knees into the chest. Good. And so that's bridge pose. If you have some questions, please let me know. Play around with this and see how it feels in your body. Hope you have a great day. Thanks.